so we'll work that. This could actually be a very, very quick talk, and unfortunately, PDF organizers, I'm not going to actually save you 9 minutes. But the quick answer to what does Congress do with all those emails is nothing. Basically nothing. And we're going to go all the way back to the beginning here. And the longer answer is something, it's context that I call the advocacy gap. So on the one side, we have advocacy, and we have somewhere between 300 and 2,500 emails every single day going into every congressional office, and in some congressional offices, a lot more than that. In a 2008 study of American adults, we polled American adults, nearly half had contacted Congress at some point in the past year, and the vast majority of those, 82%, had done so at the prompting of a third-party organization. And that's not even to get into Facebook and Twitter and click-to-call, and there are still snail mail letters coming into Congress. So there's a lot of advocacy on the one side, right? And then on the other side is the congressional policy process and decision-making that ostensibly is the target of all of this activity. And what we're seeing is what I've dubbed the advocacy gap. And along with Stephen Henkin at Lincoln Park Strategies, who's my research partner here, we started to talk a little bit about what we were seeing in polling and in focus groups and in our conversations with our colleagues on the Hill, and in what is going to be a surprise nobody in this room. What we found was that despite all of this communication and all of this access, people weren't feeling more connected, they were feeling less connected. Advocates are feeling less connected. They're feeling more cynical about whether or not what they do actually matters. And folks on the Hill are also feeling more disconnected. They're saying we're getting deluged, we're in a shitstorm constantly of action, but we have no idea what to make of it. And we have no idea always where it's coming from. And it's really, really difficult to act on it and to help our member, to help those members of Congress who we work for do the right thing. So we decided, Stephen and I, to really do some research on this and see if we couldn't draw the contours a little better around that advocacy gap. So as Mika said, we did, and actually are still in process, we're just finalizing them, in-depth interviews with current and former senior Hill staff, both sides of the aisle, House and Senate, committee and individual staff. And we worked with 8 nonprofit organizations to survey their activists and to try and get some details on how both sides are experiencing that. And actually, the survey data just came in. The last batch of data came in on Wednesday. So this is the very first revealing of this data, and we're just going to talk about a tiny slice of it. And before I go on, I just want to say that if you are dealing with an issue like SOPA, and you have a day where you can have 75% of online traffic delivering a single message, and if that message can be hell no on a particular thing, then you can ignore everything else I'm about to say. It's irrelevant. But if, by some chance, you work on and care about issues and communications that doesn't fall into this category, this might be interesting. So a couple things that we heard from those IDIs consistently, in-depth interviews of the Hill staff consistently, is that constituents are what matter. And only constituents matter for the vast majority of members. And what they reported was, we want to hear from constituents. We want to know that we're hearing from constituents. We want constituent stories. We want examples that actually bring those stories to the district. Because then we can take that to our member and we have something concrete. We know we can do something with that. And what we're getting in this deluge is a lot of national and a lot of, well, we think it might be national or it might be local or it might be constituents, and we just don't know. We need constituents. That's what we heard. They also said that we need to be, the only thing we can do anything with is a very consistent and tight and relevant ask. Congress doesn't deal with protect the internet. Congress deals with House Bill 747 that deals with this little code section that deals with that little thing, right? And they can't do anything in any other way. That's how the institution works. So what they need is that kind of ask, and that's something they can work with. They talked a lot about being able to work with advocates and advocacy organizations around work in the district. So they said, even when we disagree, even when we're not going to be where you are, when someone comes with a constructive, participate in a telephone town hall so we can actually get closer to our constituents, give us opportunities to actually meet with folks in their living room, actually have those conversations again with constituents. When you bring us those kinds of opportunities, we can work with it. Again, we don't get that very often, is what we heard from the Hill. And there's a lot more there, but just to give you a sense of what we heard, again, it's constituents, and it's visits, and it's stories, and it's calls, and everything else goes down from there. Email, you'll note, mass emails is small, because they take it with a grain of salt, and they don't know what to do with it. So on the other side, we talked to activists, and again, just a small slice of the data. We said, what do you do? And not surprisingly, this is regularly and never, and it doesn't reach it to 100 because in there is the sometimes and rarely and when I feel like it. But so regularly, they send a lot of email. They send emails to organizations, they sign online petitions, they send emails directly to their member. It's not clear how much overlap there is there, but probably quite a bit. So they send a lot of email, and they don't do a whole heck of a lot else. They sometimes call. About 6% has ever actually met with an elected. They don't participate in town hall meetings. They don't, by and large, go to rallies and protests. And now, before I go to the next slide, I'll tell you our hypothesis. We had a hypothesis going into this that the reason that what we were going to find here was that people were misinformed, that they were confused about what was effective. That because when you join an organization, the odds are very, very good. At some point, you're going to get an email that asks you to click on this link to send an email to your congressperson, that activists out there were going to think that that meant that was what mattered, and that our challenge was going to be around information and education. So you can imagine we were a little surprised to find that actually activists are incredibly savvy. So when we said, and again, this is very effective, not effective, so that's why it's not up to 100, but they said very effective, met with an elected, very effective. If you added up very effective and somewhat effective, you'd get almost a 60%. Activists know that that's what helps, right? It's almost a perfect opposite correlation between what they do and what they know matters, what they know can make a difference. So another representation of that. They know it works, they don't do it, right? So what we found is that there is, in fact, an advocacy gap. In fact, it's a chasm. There's a vast chasm between all of the majority of the activism and the action that's aimed towards Congress and what Congress can do with it and how they operate and how the decision is made. But it turns out it's not where we thought it was. So, for example, we have the Hill saying, meet with us, bring us your constituents. We want to hear from them. We want to know them. And we have activists saying, yeah, that's a great idea, but I don't do it, right? So the gap is action, and it's not education, and it's not access. So what? I have 5 so whats right now. 1, it's a really good time for this community and anybody who deals with advocacy and tools and everything else to recognize and just be honest that list building through low impact activities like just clicking on a link is not advocacy. List building can be important. It's good for lots of reasons. Maybe you have to do it, but it is not advocacy. The Hill knows it. Your activists know it. It's not advocacy. Let's move along. We've been heavily invested in making those low-impact activities really, really easy. Everybody does it. And for the win, we're going to have to start investing in things that make the higher-impact activities, like meeting with your electeds, easier. It's never going to be as easy to go meet with your elected in their district office as it is to click on a link and send them an email, but it can be a hell of a lot easier than it is. We can absolutely build tools around making it easy to find your district office, and here's how you call your district office, and here's when the recesses are, so you might actually be able to meet with your member in that office. There's a lot that this community can do to make it a lot easier. We've done amazing work. If you think about how hard it used to be to contact your member of Congress, now it's really, really easy. We've done amazing work there. We can do amazing work in making sure that those easy things are also the impactful things. We can, and those of you who know me and maybe have read what I've written before are gonna sound a little broken record here, but we can get the hell out of DC. Activists want to. The Hill wants us to. We have got to stop bringing our people to DC and stop focusing all of our energy, our emails and our media and everything else. Like, don't go protest on the mall. Bring your people to the district offices and build relationships with your members. Get the hell out of DC. Another takeaway for us is that at its heart, this relationship between voters and electeds really hasn't changed. It feels like it's gotten so different because now there's just so much noise in the machine. But in fact, what you've still got is this very intense need on the Hill, on staff, to have a connection to constituents, to know what's going on, to feel like they're serving their voters. And you have an intense need among activists to feel like they have access and that what they're doing makes a difference. And that's really, really, really good news from our perspective, right? This is great news. If we thought what we had to do was go teach people what they thought was true is in fact not true and something totally different, that's really hard. But making what has always been true, that relationship matters, easier and better to act on, that's something that we can do to change and to really bridge that advocacy gap. So this was just a very thin slice of this amazing data that we've got, and like I said, we just got it this last Wednesday. Over the course of the summer, we'll be releasing more of it with some final reports. If you go to englin.net/research, you can sign up to get it. We'll send it to your email and let you know when we'll be talking about it again. So thank you.
Thank you.